So this is video 2 for factoring trinomials, week 1, part 1. Go ahead and make sure you have your notes handy so that you can keep working with these. These videos will kind of get repetitive, but the most important piece is that you practice. So let's get started. Objective 2 says that I can factor trinomials with an a value of 1 and a positive c. So thinking back to factoring, you're just thinking factoring is backwards multiplying. It's kind of like dividing. You're thinking of the two things that would multiply to give you that trinomial that you have. So you will be given a trinomial, and you're going to want to figure out what two polynomials will multiply to give you that trinomial. It's kind of like a logic puzzle. So we're going to look at, so first thing we want to think about is the rules of multiplying integers. So remember that when you do a positive times a positive, you get a positive number. And if you do a negative times a negative, then you also get a positive number. So anytime you're multiplying with the same signs, you end up with a positive number. Whenever you're multiplying a positive times a negative, you end up with a negative. And when you multiply a negative times a positive, you end up with a negative. So the order doesn't matter. First number is positive, second number is positive, doesn't matter. You end up with a negative as long as your signs are different. So that's the thing you always want to think back to when you're factoring. If you're multiplying two things and they have the same sign, the product is positive. If you're multiplying two things with different signs, the product is negative. So we see this, I've set up this little cycle for you. So up until now, this is where we started with two binomials that we were multiplying together. And we would distribute everything in the first to everything in the second. And we'd end up with this middle piece here, x squared plus 5x plus 2x plus 10. And that would simplify to give us our trinomial x squared plus 7x plus 10. The going down piece is the multiplying. Now in this video, we're going to look at how we can go backwards and start with the product and end up with the factors. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to be thinking about what two numbers give us 7x and multiply to be 10. So the practice that we did last week with GCFs where we were finding the product of numbers or finding factors of numbers that also added to be another number is what you're going to be doing. So you're going to be thinking about, because 5 times 2 is 10 and 5 plus 2 is 7. So you're going to be thinking about how can I break this 7x up so that it creates two numbers that multiply to give us our last number and add to give us that middle number. So remember, you want to find the two numbers that will multiply to be the C value and add to be the B value. This is your goal right here. This is what you're doing. This is what you're asking yourself. We'll create little X puzzles to help us do that. So whatever the C value, whatever our C value is, will go right here at the top of our X. Whatever B is, will go down here at the bottom of the X. And then we'll fill in the numbers that work to satisfy both constraints. And that's what will go into our factors. Once we have that, these two things will go into our parentheses. Remember that we need to multiply this. That did not change like I wanted to. X times x. This piece has to equal our ax squared. In the next couple of weeks, everything we do will have x and x. Next year in Math 2, you'll start looking at what happens when a is not 1. But for now, we're going to keep a 1. And we're going to look for the two highlighted pieces. Now, this all seems kind of weird when it's all in just general form. So let's do a couple of examples. So here are the steps written out. I'm not going to read them through. You have them written for you. You're just going to see me do these steps. So I have created in my examples the X puzzle. So we're just going to focus in on this one. So what you want to do is take your C value. So remember, let's go ahead and let's write out A is 1, B is 8, and C is 16. A, B, C from standard form. So C goes at the top. So put 16 up here. B goes at the bottom. We put 8 here. Now we want to think about, all right, what will multiply to give me 16 and add to give me 8? If you're not very good with your factors, then you might come over here and make a quick factor list of 16. So 1 times 16, 2 times 8, and 4 times 4. You write out that list, that helps you to see that 4 times 4 is 16 and 4 plus 4 is 8. So we'll put plus 4 because 16 and 8 are both positive, so we need our signs to be the same. From there, we can then make our shell. X and X will go first because they give us X squared. X times X gives me X squared. Then I'm going to put my plus 4 and plus 4 in the parentheses because 4 times 4 gives me my plus 16. We need to check the middles. So X times 4 is 4X and 4 times X is 4X. So when I combine my 4X and 4X, I get 8X, which is where I started. So I know this is my final answer. I should not have square, boxed that in. All right. 1 is just never enough. So let's do the second one. Taking a look here, we have A, B, C. So put C on the top. So we want to multiply to be 12. And we want to add to be 7. So making our factors of 12. 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and 3 times 4. Looking through that list, we can see 3 times 4 is 12, and plus 3 and plus 4 makes 7. Creating our shell, x plus 3 and x plus 4. Checking it back, we see that x times x is x squared, x times 4 is 4x, 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times 4 is 12. Combining in the middle, we get x squared plus 7x plus 12, which is what we wanted, so we know that this is our final answer. It's important to remember that since this is positive and this is positive, our signs have to be positive, positive. So let's take a look at this example. Remember, it's just a logic puzzle. So here is our A, B, and C. So C goes on top. We want to multiply to that. B goes on bottom. We want to add to that. Listing out our factors of 10, we have 1 and 10, and 2 and 5. 2 plus 5 gives us 7, so we have positive 2 and positive 5. Then, setting it into our shell, x plus 2, x plus 5. You can always check it back. X times x is x squared, x times 5 is 5x, 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 5 is 10. The middles add to give us the 7x plus 10. So we know that we've done it correct, and that is our final factor answer. The process will always remain the same. You're always looking for what multiplies to be the last number and adds to be the first number, the middle number, sorry. goes into your X puzzle, and then it'll always create into this shell that we have here. So now go ahead, I want you to take a few minutes and I want you to do the next 3. Just do these 3 and then come back and we'll check the work. So here are the answers to the next 3. When you want to multiply to be 20 and add to be 9, you get 4 and 5, because 4 times 5 is 20 and 4 plus 5 is 9. When you want to multiply to be 6 and add to be 7, 1 and 6 become your factors. Remember that 6 has another set. You have 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. So don't forget about that 1 and 6 option. That's like one that commonly gets forgotten because it's rarely used. So just remember that one. And then the last one, 7, you want to multiply to be 7, add to be 8. So 1 and 7 will multiply to be 7 and add to be 8. So just make sure that the numbers that go here and here are the 2 that were up in the middle of our X. Always remember C is on top, B is on the bottom. Think B for bottom. So now I'm going to let you do the next 6 as well and then check back your answers before we move on. All right, now take a couple of seconds and check your work. Make sure that you've got them right. Do note that the order in which you put your factors does not matter since multiplication is a commutative property. So if you wrote x plus 1 times x plus 5 for this one here, then that would still be correct. Also note this last one, since it was x plus 5 times x plus 5, you could also write it as x plus 5 squared. And that's the same as the first example that we did, I just didn't write it that way. So you could write them in either way, whichever one you prefer. If it were a standardized test, then the second option here, this x plus 5 squared, is what you would see. So just remember that something squared is really the same as something times itself. So stay tuned. The next video is going to go into more detail and do more practice with this, as well as throw in some negative b's and take it up one step that way.